Hello and welcome to episode 505 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the artist of the webcomic Vanguard, and he created it, and it's very good. And he's probably going to drive himself mad completing it this year.
Anytime now.
But it's Dan Butcher.
Year. Hello.
And there he is. He's feeling better. And we all
better than last week.
Better than last week, and we're all better for seeing our host Tony Esmond.
When you say it like that, it feels like you're around my house.
Yeah,
I'm making you tea and coffee.
Well, we're recording this live from Tony's house. His vast bachelor yacht. Which
we've made furniture out of long boxes, and we're. Did you see that pile of long boxes that's available for free in the Slack?
No, I missed that.
No. We'll talk about oh God, we'll talk about the Slack, etc. More. And this is a Three Amigos show this week. And we're just gonna say we know some of our lovely listeners. They like it when it's just three of us talking, a load of nonsense. It goes off in all directions. We've got a couple of very interesting topics this week that we're looking forward to getting into. A lot of serious debate and discussion. And who doesn't love a mass debate?
Yeah.
Speaking of Johnny Cannon, I told him that we might have on tonight, and then before they cancelled. So apologies, Johnny. We haven't got that person on there.
No. But they will.
He switched off, any.
Yeah, he's like, he lied to me again. That's an impression of him.
Also, thank you to everyone for all the lovely feedback about last week's episode about comic stores and comic shops. Thanks again to Andy from Secret Identity Comics.
And thanks to Andy for getting back to us about it as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy. That's well
nice.
worth it.
Yeah.
So go get your comics from Secret. I wish Secret Identity Comics were around the corner from me.
Yeah.
I've got no comic shop near me.
Yeah.
Well, we'll save it for a future episode, but I'm beginning to adjust my comic buying habits.
Yes. That's an ongoing adventure, isn't it?
Yes, I'm keeping you updated.
We also heard about another comic shop being opened up. Brand new business. Rory's mate. So more on that as it comes along, because we're promoting the fuck out of that to try and help a new comic shop.
Yeah, Rory contacted me about that as well. We'll have to have a chat about that. Yeah.
That's Rory Donald, the amazing
Intro.
artist. If you should follow him and find out more about it.
Yeah.
But it's just the three of us this week, and I just want to state, for those that like this sort of format, you might like May.
We're going to do that, yeah.
Because May is just going to be, get ready, it's the Three Amigos month.
I'm not 100% certain that works, but I'm going with it.
Listeners, let us know. And if you
does that work or not?
If you let us know it doesn't work, I'll just ignore you. I'm still going to use it.
Keep using it.
All of them
It makes it sound like those action figures. Is it Amigo action figures? What are those like really shitty?
Mego?
Mego,
or Mego.
Mego, I think it might be Mego, yeah.
Oh, just imagine if we had action figures of ourselves.
Don't fucking be doing it out there, you wankers.
Yeah. Please don't do it. Someone would just paint Fisto a different colour and call it Tony.
Somebody already drew me as a comic this week, gave me the hump. So
just get a load of He-Man figures on the cheap and then repaint them.
There
it is.
There it is. Fisto's on the screen for us.
Yeah. I couldn't fist them all, He-Man.
But he'll give it a damn good go.
Yeah.
That's a lie, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure someone doctored that little comic to make it seem. I'm not sure if he does say that.
Yeah. If you had an action figure made of you, right? What action would they have? You know how you have like karate chop action and like all of the actions that that my WWF figures had back in the day, the slams and everything else. Fucking love them. But what would yours be, Dan?
I always liked the ones that had the water squirting ability, so I'd be able to shoot water out of some part of my body.
What?
Why? Because you constantly spit at people.
I'd be like
the gushing figure.
I'd be sort of like incontinent Dan, like this, shooting urine.
The female ejaculator figure. Is
use apple juice in it.
Yeah. Oh.
A friend of mine started a rumour that I had a tail, so I started a rumour that she was a female ejaculator. We've heard her rumour took off much better than me. Yeah.
What would your action figure action be, Tony?
Well, it's obvious. If you go to Never End Anything, you'll see it's fingering. I'm trying to bring it back, as I keep saying.
No, but how is that an
fingering
action?
Be a vigorous feeding of the horse.
So yours comes with a horse as well, like an accessory?
No. Can if you want.
So I press a button and the hand is like going fucking. Like...
Pardon?
He's got good action there, isn't he? Look at him. An experienced man.
A vibrating hand.
Yeah.
Did you make that noise as well?
I mean, I couldn't see because you're
In my
constantly
head.
pissing.
And yourself, Vince?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't know.
I'd probably have vigorous face palming action because that's
Yeah.
that's normally what I do every time.
Well, you told me you got a tongue like an electric eel, so would it be that?
What, just an extendable tongue? I've never told you that.
You know, like the battle damage He-Man and Skeletor when
I
you
didn't
whack
deny
the
it.
face
Did you know
plate
that?
Yeah.
and it spins around. Your face could be like that, and you press it and it goes. Oh.
Yeah. Is either that or the panel's like where my arse is and it just gets more damage?
Where we going with
Jesus.
this?
Yeah.
That got lively straight off the bat this week.
Yeah.
See?
It got lively. You were just talking about horses and fingering.
Yeah.
What is up with you two?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're just excited and we're going to be talking about comics. But I thought a little bit of bants at the beginning.
Yeah.
Just set us up
Bants.
nicely. A little bit of bants. It's all about the bants, isn't it? Isn't that what kids say? I don't know. Fucking
I don't
know.
understand.
Yeah, I think so.
Look at the grey in my beard. I don't
think
understand what fucking
the
happens
kids
these days.
did say that about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all
what they say
fucking
now.
they're all investment bankers now, those kids,
Yeah.
I think.
I mean,
but
one
I
thing
told
I
you I
will
was in
say-
a class. I was in class the other day and I mentioned that I found out that Gene Hackman had died. Nobody in the classroom knew Gene Hackman.
I know. R.I.P. to one of the absolute best.
Governance.
It was on the
Yeah.
news, and they like said, "Oh, the Brit Awards, like these are people up for the awards." I was like, "Who the fuck are all these people?
I know.
I don't know a single fucking one of them."
Well, no, it's my favourite Charlie XCX. She won, didn't she? She won a load. After
I don't even know who that is.
I commented on her songwriting ability
Do you know what?
originally, didn't
I love the fact that Dan doesn't know. And Dan's like, and Tony's like, that's my favourite.
She's not my favourite at all. Do you remember I saw her on a show and she was like fucking going on and on and on Saturday
Yeah,
breakfast
I
or
remember
whatever
the
it's
bit
Sunday
now.
brunch.
Yeah.
Going about her songwriting ability. Then they played one of her songs and it was just her going, "I like boys." I'm like, all right, fair enough.
What had the
I'm
song
not going to
go, Dan?
re-sing that song.
No,
exactly.
no, you got to go back to one of the old
You're not
episodes.
getting me again on that one. You've already got that.
no,
one.
no,
It's not exactly iambic pentameter, is it? That fucking
No.
lyric.
But what I will say is, even though this isn't a video show, we do record this on Zoom and we can see our lovely faces. Just so I've got something nice to finish off my week. You know, plenty for the bank.
We didn't used to do the old videos on, did we?
No,
We made
no.
a decision to
in
sort of.
Skype,
do it
which
for
is
a while,
which is
could we?
disappearing, which is
Oh yeah, it's going in Skype,
because
isn't
it's
it?
because it's fairly shit.
That fucking keep me up at nights. That will.
I was just saying that it
Get over
helped, it
that.
helped us for about
It's-
what was it, about 7
Yeah,
years?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah. All jokes aside, it was
And it's, every
brilliant.
time if it pops up on my screen, it's still got a pic. The comment that comes up is still one. I noticed you were on Skype one day, Vince. I think you were doing your YouTube thing, and I sent you a picture of Michael Praed in Robin of Sherwood saying, "This is your best girlfriend ever," because he's got such lovely hair. Do you remember? And that keeps
Yes,
popping
yeah.
up on my screen every time.
Yeah,
Skype
it's just
comes-
real
yeah.
real mature stuff from Tony Esmond there. But
He
what
did
I
have
will say
lovely
is,
hair.
This
He did. I
This
think
is a
he's-
video
he could-
call, and
He
Dan's
could go up against Tony, like in the old.
Almost that good, yeah.
Strong contender.
But
Yeah.
speaking of very attractive, Dan is a vision of green. This
You are very
week.
green today.
Yeah. He
I'm wearing my Green Archer Comics hoodie. Lovely
Yeah.
bit of kit.
yeah.
And I've got a green t-shirt under
It was
that.
like a big walking advert.
green t-shirt, and also the way Tony, the way his headphones are, doesn't the lead make it look like he's got a necklace? Like he's
Yeah.
got a
Right.
I'm
Lovely
gonna say
necklace.
like he's got a rosary on the go.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost looks like
Just after watching Conclave, I'm such a fan.
pardon the pun, Jesus Christ.
Are you supposed to wear these behind your head or like in front? Because it doesn't
You're
seem
supposed
like...
to wear the headphones in your ears, Dan. Oh, God.
It's like I reckon it's behind because then when they'll fall forward, won't they? So they.
Yeah, I guess so.
Right. I don't know.
I
It's
don't
like when
like
people
someone
have
kind of
like,
like fucking yank the bastard.
like when
I
people
mean,
have chains
how-
on their glasses.
How
don't they?
many
It's like
people
that.
are behind you while you're podcasting, Dan?
He never knows.
Where
does
he's
he?
down the gym as well.
Hold
So-
on, I just need a moment after thinking about that.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Whew.
He's down one of
Anyway.
those Gold's Gym. Everyone's jacked to fuck, aren't they? Down
Everyone's
your
doing
gym.
what? Anyway,
Jacked to fuck.
oh dear. But anyway, we've got some great comics to recommend at the end of the show.
Oh, yeah, we've got some talking
we-
points too.
Like I say, we've got a couple of talking points. There may be we've got two main ones, and there may be another one a bit later,
Depending on time.
Depending on time, but you know what it's like. This is. And before we get going, this is our discussion, and obviously, our opinions are never fact. You know, this is just our thoughts on it. Feel free.
The opposite effect.
Yeah, if you're on the Slack community or whatever it is online, feel free to continue the discussion. But of course, it's a discussion.
If you follow us on Blue Sky, you can.
Oh, we haven't set that up yet, Tony.
Yeah,
they're probably just too busy watching hentai, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh wow, I need to log on. No, but keep the conversation going. But no matter what your thoughts are about any of it, just be nice and respectful and don't be dicks. That's all it is.
They're not like that on the Slack, are they? All right, and they're on
it's just a general thing. We got a fantastic community on our Slack channel, and if you want to get in touch,
everyone's welcome.
I'm just going to do it now. If you want to get in touch, Slack, for those who don't know, because there may be some, it's basically like a messenger service, isn't it? Messenger.
It's like an old message board kind of thing.
Forum board.
Like a Discord or something like that. There's all these different old teams or different kind of things like that. We set up one for the Awesome Comics podcast, and there's loads of channels on there, lots of different discussion, wonderful community of people on there. There's something for everyone, and you don't feel like you have to get involved in anyone. I end up just like reading the discourse and seeing cool bits of artwork. There's artwork threads. We haven't got a shop talk channel, which maybe
no, we haven't, have we?
Yeah. So possibly we could add a channel for that. But you know,
we've got an advice channel, haven't we?
If you want to get into making a comic, I'll tell you what, you could find collaborators on there.
Yeah, there's a collaboration channel. Yeah. So I believe there's a link on our Substack. And we'll put a link.
Just message us. We'll send it to you.
Yeah, just message us. There's a link on the Podbean page and stuff as well, which I'll set up for this particular episode. And join us, and it's great. And this goes to listeners, guests, whoever. You know, everyone's welcome, and it's just wonderful.
Free international as well. So if you are listening from the States or somewhere else, you know, there's lots of it's a bit of an international crowd. And then we had the drink and draw, which kind of gets mostly promoted through the Slack, doesn't it? It was like people from all over the place, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
We do get when I get on in the morning, we have the UK comments, and then all the Americans like wake up and jump on, and then it all starts get a slew more, which is great.
Everyone is welcome. So and if you love comics, then we love you. As that. See, Tony said it. He loves you.
No, I love comics.
Bang! And the dirt is gone. Anyway, like I say, we've got to keep the conversation going on whatever.
I've both moved and slightly repulsed by that comment in both ways at the same time.
But yeah, the first one to talk about, which have we got Ross Radke's message? Because there's a couple of things that sort of stirred this sort of debate.
I wrote down the main thrust of it. So he's asked, Ross, obviously past guest, buddy of the show, how do we make heroes more compelling than the villains?
Yes.
Here's the thrust of it.
Yes. And this came around kind of around the same time that Vince Gilligan, obviously the writer of Breaking Bad, when he accepted an award, basically called out and sort of said, we need to write more heroes. We've spent far too long, and anyone who's listened to that speech, I mean, I love him as a writer anyway, and I just thought he's absolutely bang on there. You know, he's talking about, we spent so long.
Although he's part of the problem.
Celebrate.
That's what he knows.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things, he created
I've gone up the ladder, now I'm pulling the ladder up.
But, creating more heroes and how we can write compelling heroes. And that was something that stuck with us that we wanted to talk about. Because I think especially in modern comics, it's where are the heroes in modern comics? Like the true, people you truly root for. And I think what can muddy the waters when you talk about this is people think, oh, those, sort of blue collar, whiter than white sort of heroes, they can do nothing wrong. I think people think it's that, and it's not that, is it?
I think you can swap out compelling for relatable. So people spend more time on a villain trying to make us understand their motivations than they do on the hero for us trying to understand their motivations.
Absolutely. Not all the time. An amateurish mistake.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's numerous reasons for it. Two main ones is villains are more fun to write.
Yeah.
And the other reason is you don't need to know the backstory of the hero of the main character to write the villain in a lot of cases. So a lot of cases, villains will be fairly new, if not, sparsely used. But if you're going to write about Spider-Man, you've got to know decades of Spider-Man history.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are investing in themselves. So the easy option is to write the villain, to start the story by writing the villain. They can do what they like with him. And because we're used to the hero being someone who we know in more detail. Historically, we've always known Spider-Man in more detail, but recently, it seems that we know Doc Ock more than we know Spider-Man's current situation in a lot of comics, and that goes for a lot of them.
Yeah, it's not just like one or two examples there. There seems to be many examples. It's like we're going to focus on the villains now because we're kind of like not sure what to do with the heroes, and it's like, is that because of the people they're getting in, or an editorial dictate, or
maybe it's a combination of a lot of things. These things, like we're going to talk about in the next section, is these things are nuanced, aren't they? But I do think that aspirational is a thing we should be writing a bit more these days, especially in these troubled times we live in. I want a hero who I can look up to and follow, and in a way emulate, Captain America or someone like that, Superman. But I think they're more happy to think, oh, let's write about Mongol on the war planet, and then we can introduce Superman to it.
I
think they're worried about tropes as well, the tropes of the hero.
And
for want of a better word.
I know in the past on this show, I've ranted about the fact that stop making villains the heroes, etc. And where we have had this sort of discussion in small sections like before. But I think you're absolutely right. It's like everyone seems to be more interested in the villains than like the proper heroes, and they'll just dismiss a hero as being, oh, it's boring. There's not much you can do with it. Whereas like some of the greatest heroes, like in whether it be comics, literature, across the board, whatever it is, they are not just black and white people. Do you know what I mean? It's not just a photocopy. They are layered. I mean, if you take...
That's where the Marvel Revolution came from. That's where the Marvel thing came from, flawed characters. The Hulk, Spider-Man, the X-Men. These are characters who make them, again, understandable and relatable to us.
I mean, you take... and this is sort of stepping outside comics, but if you take, the very popular Scandinavian crime, genre, huge, usually quite grim and depressing, but and the people of that, the detectives, are always massively flawed in a lot of ways. They've got so many, but they are the heroes that you're following to stop.
They're standing up.
That's reflected in comics. I mean, look at Tony Stark's an alcoholic. There's a lot of that going on.
It always comes to me like, say, if back in the day you're writing a classic Cap comic, and if one of those writers was making the villain more sympathetic than Cap, it's like, you're fucking that up. You're doing that really wrong. Like, if the villain's becoming more sympathetic, fucking have him killing a dog or doing something heinous that marks him out as the bad guy. Like, this to me, there's a fundamental element there you're getting wrong if you're doing it wrong.
Do you think it just applies to superhero comics? Do you think we're not really applying this?
I think it's absolutely across the board.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's not just superheroes. I think superheroes is the big, shiny, glossy example of it. Because heroes and villains are so, they're the merchandise. It's in the toys. It's on.
I mean, superheroes has always in its way been a morality play, so it seems to be the clear example of that. But I think it can be reflected in maybe horror comics where they're more concentrating on the vampire than the vampire killer sometimes. Stuff like that, I guess.
When you like with the X-Men stuff, and it's like I see like a lot of the X-villains are now made into the heroes, and it's like, well, if the heroes were boring in your words, and then you make all the villains heroes, aren't you going to fall into the same trap there? Because if
you can run out of villains, firstly.
if you're struggling to write hero characters, and you make all the villains that you find easy to write into heroes, it's like you're gonna fuck yourself up, because, like you said, Tony, there's going to be no interesting villains, because you've gutted them all, and now they're all hero characters you don't know what to do with. So
there's something to be said of the person you don't know anything about being a bigger threat than the person you do know loads about. So we're always, we always knew that Spider-Man had to be home to see Aunt May. He was always fucking things up, always being late. And if some fucking massive powerhouse turns up, he's got his failings and his flaws, but you don't know about that character. That character could just fucking wipe the floor with him. But if the massive, let's say the Rhino is having like anxiety and activity problems, and he can't fucking, he's feeling really down at the moment. It reduces him in ability almost.
Yeah, reduces him in threat.
In the very deep, the very sort of straightforward top trumps way of who's going to win in a fight, which is kind of how we still live in some comics. It reduces them a little bit for me.
Yeah, you can do lots of layered things with it. I mean, I think the problem sometimes heroes, these spandex heroes from the big two, it's a crutch. It's almost like a weight around their neck, or what we think of these characters. Whereas I know Invincible, Dan, you obviously, as always, you're my go-to, sort of more knowledgeable. There was a lot of interesting things going on there, like heroes.
They turned
switching.
that whole thing on his head. Yeah, that's really interesting. Like the way you started off with the good guys and the bad guys, and then when the main character starts realizing, oh, actually, I can get stuff done, being not playing by the rules and being a bit of a bad guy. It's very interesting.
But there's layers to it, and then it's it has to come around, doesn't it? There's a journey.
Also, things only work in limited stories like that sometimes. Yeah, that's not something that would have been 1,000 issues, for example. No, it's clearly delineated in acts, and it's it's a weird.
If they had done that switch and just stayed on it, it'd be like maybe this isn't working so well. It's interesting, that kind of constant need to, like, we've got to understand the villain to sort of.
I'm done with that. I don't need to understand bad people who do bad things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Say your friend said, "Oh, fuck me, I was like walking into work and saw some geezer get stabbed," and the guy ran off. He goes, "Yeah, but maybe he came from a broken home or something." It's like, he's just fucking stabbed someone. He's a bad guy.
Yeah. What about the person who got stabbed? Why are we not?
Yeah,
the person who's been stabbed.
Yeah, and in sort of story wise, there's a bad guy. Maybe it's a societal thing where it's like we've always got to understand, like, the person who's done the wrong thing and what's their issue and where they come from.
There's a lot of, society's broken anyway, but there's a lot of these factors. But
when you sort of write entertainment and it's kind of a bit more black and white, it's like I don't think you need at times, if you're kind of like writing a relatively simplistic morality tale starring superheroes.
If you create,
I think you need to keep the car on the road a bit more.
Created, like, let's just put it simply, if you create a serial killer, mass murderer, like, this, and it's got a lineage of that, of doing horrible things, absolutely horrible things, don't ever make him a good guy. Don't ever fucking make them one of the Suicide Squad and slightly relatable. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? I think possibly, and I'm
going to switch the dynamic.
There's always exceptions on this, but
I'm going to switch the dynamic from being villains and heroes to being main character in a comic. So the main character in a comic can be anyone, right?
Yeah,
and he is the developed person. And I'll give you an example of how it doesn't work in a minute. But he or she is the developed person, and the villain is the one coming in to fight them. We don't need to know as much about the villain or the antagonist compared to the protagonist. So the main character can be a villain, but the people coming in to fight him, we don't need to know much about. But the easy option that people do is they think this is the easier. The villain is, or the antagonist is the easier character to write, because they don't have to know the backstory. But I think where it doesn't work is really winds me up. I think Captain Marvel started as a really interesting character. She took over the mantle from the last Captain Marvel. She was Miss Marvel before that. But they write her so that she's almost like characterless in the Avengers. All she does is sort of tell people what to do. She's like without any real personality.
Yeah.
And they're almost writing the villains that come in to fight her as the more interesting people. And that needs to be switched.
A lot of the time it's kind of like I don't want to give them flaws, but it's like that's what makes them human and relatable. You kind of make them sort of perfect and they don't make mistakes.
Absolutely,
it's not an interesting
also
character.
Ruins the tension of the story if you know this character can do no wrong.
And people sort of say, oh well, Superman's, obviously I've never written Superman, but Superman's a really difficult one to write because he has no flaws and stuff. He has a life. He's still a person. Do you know what I mean? The powers he has is not necessarily who he is. Do you know what I mean? He's still a person, and that person has thoughts, feelings, people they care about, which, I mean, the people they care about is usually in comics like, oh, well, that means someone can get threatened or things like that. No, you don't have to, it doesn't have to be like that. There can just be a, Superman is doing these things, but, I don't know, Lois is gone into labour. Do you know what I mean? Just something like that.
It's the filmic equivalent of The Rock. We us now knowing that The Rock has it written into his contract that he can never he can never lose a fight in a movie.
Yeah.
That just fucking ruins any kind of tension, any kind,
Yeah. And I think, like, creating a compelling hero can also come from leaning into what people will see as a possible brick wall or a problem with that character, to write. For instance, if you take a Steve Rogers, you know what I mean? That is old school, he's just get the job done. There's so many different layers to that. But that also means that he's doing his mission and what he thinks is right. But that doesn't mean that he can't learn. Do you know what I mean? It's that sort of
some of the stories with him, like, look at the time he gave it up in the 70s, became nomad. Look at the time where he almost became president. There's these really interesting stories that they're telling with him, but the character now is just a joke in the comics. It's just a tracing of what he was before a lot of the time, I think.
Who do you think are sort of, and this is not just superheroes, just in general, who are some of the most compelling heroes within the comic book world? And this can go mainstream, indie, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, an example I've used in the past is Eric, Exo Man of War, because he's a barbarian in Iron Man armor, and he's got all the instincts of a warrior, but he's backed it up with this intergalactic armor. I really like him. I think there's a genuine, even though he's fucking nailed, there's a failing there somewhere.
Yeah,
with him written the right way, but then again, he's not always written the right way, sadly.
Go to more modern titles. I could look at Ghost Machine, Geiger, that kind of one man across the wasteland. Rook, that's fucking great.
See, Geiger's a dude trying to do the right thing, but the energy in his body and his anger and his desperation read Vince a message the other day. If you don't read that new issue, I'm going to kill you. That broke my heart, mate. Where'd you read it?
I need to catch that.
But that's the way you write a hero.
Yeah, insecurity, anger, trying to do the right thing. He's got the family thing. He's got these sort of now a little group of companions follow him around, and really, there's one page in that it'll fucking break you. I tell you now. Me and we're talking about the other day. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, and that sort of hero, because that's perfect, because that hero has an audience, and I think there's an audience for, if you're writing a Spider-Man, just sort of say that template sort of character. Make them fun to read, and because also that is a character that goes to a younger audience. There isn't the looking at the deconstructed heroes, Dark Knight Returns. We also want kids to read these books and also think, I'm more interested in the person in the red and the blue than the person in the green and the purple. Do you know what I mean? If you look at it on those sort of levels, and I think. They dropped the ball with a lot of, like, for instance, Spidey sort of characters. I think
new writers, if they get, like, say, you got to write Batman or Spider-Man or Superman, or that's like, there's a lot of fucking backstory there. It's kind of, you can't just.
Well, it shouldn't be that complicated. If it's too complicated for a writer who's fucking involved in the industry to write it, then it shouldn't be. Yeah. It'll be much more complicated for a reader to get hold of it.
Yeah.
They're overcomplicated. Everything's a team book now. We said it before. Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, they're all team books now. There shouldn't be. There should be a single person.
I think there's a massive reason why some of the huge sellers in comics stores at the moment are those old reprints of digest of the little pocket-sized books of older titles just getting redone because they're classic stories telling about proper heroes, going through it. And there's
a reason New Daredevil is based on a comic from 40 years ago.
Yeah,
the New Daredevil TV series is based on a comic from then. There's a reason for that.
Not going to bang on about the MCU, but the fact that they jumped over years and years and years of comics to get to the modern day stuff, which is not interesting and hasn't done well, it boggles my mind. I don't understand it. But like last week when we was talking about the Absolute titles with Batman, because it's a fresh start and people can get in on the ground level and they can get it all, and they kind of know Batman and they want to.
Yeah.
It's.
And also
Yeah.
I think one of the things is a lot of long-standing readers who are just tired of the standing water of some of those characters, and they just want something fresh told by good creators, just without shackles.
You're right about those absolute titles. The three that we liked, they're concentrating on what are these people about.
Yeah.
What is Wonder Woman about? What is Superman about? What is Batman about?
Yeah.
It's not concentrating on the fucking penguin or something for 3 issues, or you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that Superman title, like, he's like the last son of Krypton, and then he's on his own on a planet which virtually everyone's trying to fucking get him. You couldn't be more isolated. It's
Yeah. I think compelling heroes, we need more of them. I think just
write them more. I think write them more and write them better.
Yeah, don't be afraid to make someone heroic. It doesn't mean that they're boring. It doesn't mean that it just means when something bad happens, they'll do the right thing, or they're the person who will try to make the right choice. Do you know what I mean? Who will after bumping, it could be as meaningless as backing into a car and not just driving off straight away, stopping and dealing with it.
That's what you're meant to do.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
I always try to have my villains as people you wouldn't want to be in the same room with. Horrible.
Yeah.
Just awful people.
Oh, yeah, you're very good at villains, Dan. Fucking
thank you.
But there is those... I think we understand loving villains because we love to hate them. And there is people that we cannot wait to see their comeuppance. We still enjoy how the ride of taking us to that point, but the villain has to get the comeuppance, and the hero has to deal with them.
Do you think there's a divorcing from reality in relation to what a really bad person's like, therefore people can't write them? So an example of this, if you go in a shit area of London, you go in a pub, there is a dude who will be so awful and so nasty you'll go, fuck.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Some people give off an atmosphere and like a radiate bad.
And no matter how fucking bleeding heart you are, you will never write that person as a good character. Because they are nasty, evil fuckers.
Mate, I'm sure you've encountered many too.
Mate,
I've encountered
many times.
I've encountered a few, but it's like, mate, I just don't want to be in this fucking room with this geezer. He's going to go off in a minute, and he's a problem.
Yeah. Let us. I mean, if we put it simply, all of these villains that are normally written with almost the sun shining on them a little more than they should be, right? Some of those villains that are written well, to put it bluntly, they're a villain. They will probably hurt animals and wouldn't think about it. But if you wrote that detail, you can't take that back. Do you know what I mean? That's one of those. Yeah. As soon as that comes into it, they're fucking done. Do you know what I mean? That is that is a real crossing point, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Everyone's like, oh, Harley Quinn, she's wonderful. If she kicked one of her hyenas to death in a book, I mean, the fucking internet would go mad. But that's the sort of...
It's also that thing of like people getting fucking flack for writing bad guys as bad guys. It's like they made Harley Quinn bad. It's like she's a villain. Well, she's not now.
Thanos kills children. Don't write him as a good guy. Don't write him relatable. No. Doc Doom is the worst dictator in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, don't write him as a good guy.
They can do a speech and make you think, I see where they're coming from. Yeah. But that's what makes a compelling villain. But they're still a villain. Do you know what I mean? And I think people, they don't understand that.
Mate, there's so many parallels in the real world for this now, aren't there?
Yeah. There's a difference.
You're falling over fucking parallels for it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. There's a difference between charm and megalomania. Do you know what I mean? There is a real fucking, and people think, Doctor Doom, I fucking love reading Doctor Doom. The way he talks and the way he looks and everything like that.
Best villain.
It's brilliant. But he's a fucking villain. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to see, no matter how well Hickman wrote it, seeing him as part of that Fantastic Four, that I didn't want that. Do you know what I mean? I don't want
a cup of tea, man.
Jam with my peanut butter sometimes. Do you know what I mean? It's that, and I think classic comics almost became their own problem because Magneto's the start of that. Magneto is the ultimate first villain because he's got a point. He can be turned. You know what I mean?
And it depends on your point of view whether things are done well or not.
I'm not saying these books weren't done well. Yeah. But...
No, I've warmed to him a little bit more. But if there's people that they can't do it to, they've done it to the Riddler. You know, they've done it to Penguin. They'll do it to the Joker if they haven't already. But the Joker's a fucking child killer.
Yeah, he's killed
he's
loads
like
of people. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's just, the crazy shit. It's like you wouldn't be able to fucking forgive him for what the stuff he's done. It's just
the Joker's a horror
beyond the
movie
pale.
character in a Batman world. Do you know what I mean?
As a lot of his villains are. Like the Mad Hatter, these sort of characters are as well.
But as a
I
society,
think if you chalked up the kill count of some of those characters,
even the ones that are fun, even the ones that are funny or fun, it's like they've still killed someone. But as a society, we're hypnotized by the villains anyway. You know, we have these, and I think going back to the word charm, you know, classic fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter, we're fascinated by them, and then we're more interested in them than the people that are.
This whole thing is permeates through society, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't it really
absolutely.
The kind of fascination with?
Yeah. I mean, why
I
are
don't
people
want to sound
so
like a
obsessed
fucking
with serial
incel.
killers and the crime
True crime.
documentaries?
Yeah.
True
But it's
crime.
like a girl would be like, I want to go for the bad boy, not the nice guy.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, he's going to fucking knock you around and treat you like shit.
Yeah, they say that I want to go for the bad boy, and then when they do actually meet a really bad person, then they're like,
It's like,
mate.
it's not so great. It's,
Yeah.
But that kind of like focus on kind of, oh, I've got to get the kind of the bad boy. He doesn't play by the rules, or it's the same when you see the I don't know. It's always conflicted with that with Punisher, because
Punisher is a villain, really.
He's a villain. Yeah.
He's a villain who thinks he's doing
Yeah.
the right thing in his own way. Do you know what I mean?
And it depends on how he's written. Same as Dredd.
Yeah.
When everyone goes Dredd's a villain, and he almost entirely is, but occasionally there are moments where he saves people.
Yeah.
And you know.
You know.
But that'd be hard, because if he had like a psychopath that once or twice he saves someone, that he's not a fucking good guy, is he?
Yeah.
No.
He's
I mean, you know.
Shades of Grey.
Yeah, exactly. You can have shades of grey. Like, you know, for instance, like take Dexter, for instance, the TV show and the books and everything. A serial killer who just pointed his serial killer like tendencies at the bad people, but he's still a serial killer. Do you know what I mean? He's still a bad person doing, you know.
I did hear a comment during the week. I'm not sure to say it, but it was like,
I need to make note of the time.
If you sucked 100 dicks and then made a table, it doesn't make you a carpenter. Do you know what I mean?
It does, doesn't it?
That's not what you're going to be known for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bloody hell!
What, in a row?
In a row?
How would
maybe.
you line them up?
Yeah. Ask that
Blue
girl
style.
that did that fucking video, the old OnlyFans.
Bonnie Blue?
You
is
on
that
her
her name?
OnlyFans, didn't you?
Vince?
What? Talk about villains. I've fucking hosted two of them.
Become the villain. Yeah.
Fucking,
He's too tired to do it at OnlyFans.
If my character goes through any more growth, it's going to be a villain.
Never goes down if you look at it.
Yeah.
So what? Move on to our second one.
Well, what do we want from our heroes now, though?
I don't want a well-written character. You know, I that's all I want. I can't specify any more than that. I just want a well-written character.
Do you want them to win in the end?
Some of them.
Yeah.
Not necessarily all of them.
Yeah.
Not every
Sometimes
story's
losing
about
in
the
the
hero
end
succeeding.
can be a good story
Yeah.
point, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read any recent stuff, but a hero that seems to be compelling to me is John Constantine.
Yeah.
He's an interesting, because he's not. I think he's a hero.
Sometimes a villain.
Yeah.
Sometimes
he has to be a villain to be the hero, isn't he? But because
Like
also
Matt Murdock, man.
Yeah.
He's been through the meat grinder a million times.
Yeah.
And it's so much like when you see him coming back and fighting back for it, it's
because if we put it
and
like
then they
this,
replace him with Electra.
Yeah.
It's so
I mean, if people think heroes are boring and villains are more exciting, they're not, because heroes are the people that have to make the hard choices and make them. The villains are the ones who don't, because they're taking the easy option. It's harder. It can be really harder to be good in certain situations and to pick the right thing to do, because it doesn't always. It's not going to work.
It can be harder to write it. I always think back to that. There's that scene. Is it Dark Knight where they're on that fucking boat and the guard is deciding whether or not to press the button, and the dude takes it off him and presses it. And I always think that's a great. We need more like that.
Yeah.
Moments that bring out heroism.
Yeah.
Mate,
because the whole point of that was the Joker in that, which is I think is one of the best examples of like just the ultimate villain in any fucking thing, because you didn't know anything about him.
So he makes it up different things,
and he was like, you know, you don't know who he is. He's a nihilistic pinpoint sort of genius, but he fell down because he thought there is no hope and people will let you down. So when it came to that moment, what defeated him was the fact that people did the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, and that should always be, people should always be able to do the right thing. We hope for that in the world, don't we? You know,
I mean, that story you told earlier, T, when you're in a room with someone, like met a pub and then someone's in there is absolutely fucking horrible, and they start picking on someone and someone stands up and sort of says, mate, leave him alone.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't need to stick their neck out, but that's an act of heroism of sort of
picking on a woman,
standing up for someone. And
speaking of which,
so you know, we need more heroes in the world.
Now to real life villains.
We need more heroes in the world, which is sort of brought us around to just heroes of all forms, really, and how heroes can become villains and more so. So there was another topic of debate, which is kind of tied to
Shall I read it out?
Yeah.
Shall I read it out? So this is something we've been long discussing, talking about more than a year.
And this is the one that I feel is a topic that is rife for discussion,
but full of passion as well. I think.
Yeah.
So separating the creator and the comic, can we always manage it? Now, I'd just like to caveat this, because there's no right and wrong answer for this. This very much depends on you.
Yes.
If you are giving a simple answer on this, then you aren't. I don't think you're considering it enough. Because
being honest with yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's very nuanced and it strays into so many things. I just wrote down a couple of things that I thought it strays into. So whether you can do it or not, it strays into your own personal experiences. Your individual, as an individual, your connection to the work that you're talking about, emotional responses, whether or not the thing that the person has done is very egregious or even a crime. Horses for courses, different situations for different things. And there are no hard and soft rules. Now, obviously, the big elephant in the room is Gaiman. I would never blame anyone if they wanted to continue reading his books. I personally can't. But then again, my background is in child protection, so and the protection of people, you know, who are victims. So I can't personally do that. But if one of you said, "I've never read Sam and I'm going to read it," I would never say to you, "Don't do it," or I won't be your friend.
No.
And then, of course, the other side of the coin is Ed Piscor, who I'm not actually sure he did much wrong.
He did I don't know. He made a comment on someone's Instagram.
Yeah, and I found that I didn't find that hard to separate at all. I continued to reading his work. I was never that massively mad on it, but a couple of bits of it I quite enjoyed. So I think you can't say you can do it all the time. I've heard people say, of course you've got to be able to separate the creator from his work, but I can't do it. I'm a human being, and I can't bring myself to do it in every case. But some cases I can.
I think there's a lot of people who act the righteousness of them. I'm trying to. This thing is this particular topic. You got to try and word it in the right way. So stick with us, listeners. But they'll talk a good game in terms of their ideals or their morality and stuff. Well, I'm not reading anything by this person. I'm not reading anything by this person. But there'll be older, long deceased creators that you could easily pull up for something, and they're still fans with them. You can't pick and choose your ideals with things like this. Do you know what I mean? They'll be because there are many classic creators, writers, publishers, all kinds of things, especially in history, pretty fucking problematic because they were problematic times.
I think when you say problematic, I think you mean racist, don't you? I'm going to say
I mean,
racist,
obviously the racism thing. H.P. Lovecraft,
the blackface type stuff you used to get in, for example, Eisner's work, or not,
I've kind of with the Lovecraft stuff,
the classic Tintin stuff, and and Lovecraft.
The Lovecraft stuff. I think that was just the what everyone thought at that age.
In a certain sort of space and time or like civilized culture, but obviously there was a wider world, and it all comes.
No,
from,
I mean, sorry, everyone in that society would
Yeah.
be kind of
Yeah.
thinking the same thing, and it's kind of we can look back at it and think, oh, that's fucking. We're doing stuff now that in 50 years, 100 years time, they're gonna look back and think, what the fuck were they doing? They're monsters, like.
Yeah, I mean, the cycle. Yeah, probably. Especially, well, you two.
Mate, you don't have to go.
But
you have to travel 50 minutes in the future. You can see that.
Exactly. It's accelerating, isn't it? I saw somebody ranting about a rock star the other day. I can't remember the dude's name. He's like a folk singer, ranting about what a horrible person he was. And I looked it up, and he'd had an affair. And I'm like,
okay,
really? Like,
no, fuck it.
We're all human, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's like.
Didn't Bruce Springsteen go up on stage and fucking drop a load of racial stuff?
Eric Clapton.
That's it. Yeah. Eric Clapton.
I mean,
there's a lot of racist stuff.
I mean, you name the rock star, especially in the 60s, Bowie got arrested twice for rape. You know, it's like, but you can't delineate one from the other. Thing is, I'll probably listen to Bowie, but I won't listen to Michael Jackson. I can't explain why.
Okay.
I just can't do it. I can't explain to you why. But I just
Jackson's never been found guilty of anything, has he?
No, but neither is Bowie.
Well, Gary,
it might just have been a spurious,
Gary Glitters a bit fucking
to the point where when I was watching that Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, and there was a riff for a Gary Glitter song is in that fucking movie, and and I was like, as he's walking down the stairs, I thought, this is catchy. Where have I heard this before? There was a real fucking because they cut it before there was any singing.
Right, I wonder whether he gets the money. It might be the songwriter who gets the money for it. Maybe now.
But obviously, there are the current things going on. But how much of a difference do you think it makes to people's perceptions when the creator is long since deceased? The statute of limitations, that kind of thing.
It's going to be
the mental statute of limitation.
They've been dead for 75 years. The world has moved to a better place, so I can.
It has to. I can't say yes or no around things, mate. It has to be
really
what
subjective.
they've done, how it affects me, who they are, what they've done. You know, I can't. It has to literally be on a case by case for me. I can't. I'm not saying that's the right answer and it's not the correct answer, but for me personally, it has to almost be, and I can't explain it.
Yeah, fair. It's just
Lovecraft's the big one, isn't it? Lovecraft is the one that has over the past sort of 15 years has been absolutely beloved. Lovecraft books, hasn't it? You know, it's come up on this show almost monthly at one point.
I mean, I read Lovecraft stuff.
Yeah, I haven't read much, but I've read something. Yeah.
But there are many writers around that time that could be seen as problematic in so many different ways. You know.
I really don't like the. I know we use it. We're all using it, but I don't like the word problematic. I think you have to say there has to be different areas. What was the crime, or did they do? Did they actually hurt someone? Was it a crime? Was it an opinion? Because if someone has an opinion,
what's the? I mean, I think it all gets clouded, doesn't it? These are constantly murky waters, but there are a lot of writers who are considered objectionable because of their views on the world. Just their views on the world. They just say they didn't do anything. You know, it's a writer who didn't actively do anything.
But not committed a crime.
But if we met them, they're shit people. They are shit people who have made a beloved genre or series of books or whatever it is. And there are many ones. I think, isn't it Orson Scott Card has got some pretty...
What is it? Homophobic?
Homophobic, and I believe.
See, does that affect you watching the movie or reading the books?
I've never read or.
No, I haven't either, but only just through pure coincidence. I've never.
But I know there was a lot of comics. Yeah, there was a lot of comics and stuff made through that as well. But so you get these people that have these objectionable views, and some people rightly will just be like, "No, I don't want any of that." But there's also people who will continue with it. Would those people continue if that person had committed a crime?
Depends on the crime.
Yeah. Again, it depends. If they're a shoplifter, I'd probably read it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if they're Yeah, it's like a
when you're kind of like.
I mean, I think we're talking about
gaming territory,
when a lot of these things come out. These are, and we're talking about crimes that there are. No, I'm done. Do you know what I mean? I'm just sort of like, right, okay.
anything to do with kids, any sexual abuse, you know, in that sort of thing. You can't.
I sort of think about. You remember the Lost Prophets? That fucking the guy on that.
Yeah.
The other people in the band didn't know anything about it, and they've been.
Yeah.
I know there are other victims to that, but
Yeah.
like, the people in the band didn't know anything about it, and everything they did was fucked, like for years. And they couldn't mention anything to do with what they did in their past.
Well, that's the argument that was sort of rolled out a bit with Gaiman, wasn't it? Like Mark Buckingham, who's done quite a lot with Gaiman. I think Gaiman was his best man. Mark's like the sweetest guy in the world.
Yeah.
I've got no doubt in my mind he knew nothing about this.
Yeah. And people went in it Terry Pratchett, because Terry Pratchett, I mean, long since deceased. And Terry Pratchett, it was a good egg. Do you know what I mean? Just an absolute top
I
Yeah.
Again, but say that you got 5 people working on the book, and like for this instance, dodgy writer or dodgy colorist. Does that one
it's weird, isn't it?
dodgy
letterer
pollute the rest of it?
See again, mate. It's like, could I stomach it if the dude was just a letterer? I'd probably, but I'd have to do it per case. So could I do it if the colorist was a dodgy dude? I'm like, maybe. It depends. I have to take it.
Yeah,
because it
is very much sort of case by case, isn't it? I think for this, why it's so prevalent is because there's so many there's creators who they make such a big name, and businesses and industries in their own are built up. It's the trouble with idols. Do you know what I mean? You idolize these people, you push them up. So, for instance, the name that's in the room currently, how many collaborators on books, how many collaborators on movies, how many collaborators in the publishing world, all of these people who are now losing a stream of income or getting unfair sort of people having a go at them for no reason, with the usual, how did you not know?
Yeah,
come on. There are people in lives that I mean,
it's like walk a mile in someone's shoes. You can't. You don't know
exactly. And how many times have you heard people going, "I had no idea that person was an alcoholic." Do you know what I mean? Just because they're they can fucking hide.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Actually, alcoholic's a massive one, isn't it? But I think the thing is, like, not that it's a crime to be an alcoholic. You're a victim, as far as I'm concerned. But the thing is, like, I thought I read Sandman. I read American Gods and stuff like that, and I read quite a lot of his stuff, and I thought he was a pretty good writer, but I was never like desperately invested in him.
But the thing about it was,
I'm just trying to imagine
a lot, like
broken a lot of hearts, man.
A legion of hearts.
Yeah, but I was trying to think, what if it was someone who I was massively invested in?
Yeah,
let's not name someone, but if we think of someone who with us knowing people now, we might be friends with these people.
Yeah.
And imagine if there's
I
would be fucking heartbroken.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is when situations like this,
and nothing's proven. I think we should possibly also
allegedly.
say here,
It's all allegedly.
It's all allegedly. Yeah.
And we're just, this is open for debate, as I said. But my heart does, and I'm the same. I've had very little sort of interaction with the works of that person. I've read some stuff, seen some stuff, etc. But I know people who were just absolutely gutted, and there was someone in the office I work in just going, "What am I going to do with all these books now?" They were a big fan who influenced them, and they write themselves and stuff. An influence to a legion of people.
Comics are collaborative, I think, and I think if we also imprint ourselves on comics, so we see ourselves and we read it and we relate to it. And the time that I read, I don't know, From Hell, for example, is a specific time of my life, and I very much remember the book because of that. Not necessarily, I do like Alan, and I do like the creators on it, but it's like it's more than just the writer for me, a book. So when a very good friend of ours, she said, it means an awful lot to me, Sandman, and it'll never stop meaning an awful lot to her, and I'm 100% behind her when she says that, and I would never criticize that. It's massively up to her,
because also
it's not her fault, and they're not a kind of lookout. You know what I mean?
And also, if we we're talking about separating the art from the artist, etc., but if we do take the artist out of it, if that body of work, just say the artist just didn't exist, or they were never a visible presence, that body of work, sometimes you can look back and go, I can see the problems that are actually in this writing. I didn't see it before. There's the things that you look in hindsight, but sometimes they're just not there. They're just not there. They've created something that if that name was wiped off it and you never discovered and you didn't know who it was and you read it now, there's no problems with the work, and that sometimes that muddies it. You can't judge someone for being like fans of that stuff.
Say someone came at like an artist, they had the most profound piece of work, they had a real deep sort of spoke to you, and you're like, man, I can really relate to this. And then it came out that they'd done something truly awful, and it's like, what was in that person that he spoke and I understood, and it kind of resonated with me. And he's a fucking absolute wrong, and it's resonated with me. Like, is that a kind of it's a kind of dark reflection on me as a person that
What
I
if
don't know.
What if I don't know, Dennis Nielsen was the world's best artist? Could we appreciate his art? There would be a group of the country who would really appreciate it because they'd love the darkness that inhabits it. But could you appreciate it? I think possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Again, it's that there's not a fucking clear line.
I mean, it does get me. I grind my teeth to powder sometimes when there are people who are fans of like creators' work. Obviously huge fans of it, and in their eyes, that person can do no wrong, and therefore, not condoning, but they'll just stick up for them no matter what. And I'm just thinking, there's no defense for it. Sometimes people are just shit. We're also in a world where everything is more visible now. The internet databases, the searches, that everyone is more visible now. So all of these classic painters, poets, writers, there's so much stuff in history that may have been lost to history. I'm not saying that some of the classics have been absolute wrong-uns, but possibly if they existed now, how does it go? I
mean, there might be books on your shelves behind you that's an artist, one of the creators on it has done something dubious that you've.
I only collect books where someone's been an absolute wrong, and Dan, you know that. I don't. I just want to stay.
No. Man, it's very difficult. It's very difficult because you want to kind of go through life not making kind of supporting dubious stuff, but we've all got smartphones, and we know that.
I know, man.
They source them not on the up and up. It's
the big example I always think is Polanski on this.
Yeah, that's always kind of.
Chinatown is a masterpiece. Fearless Vampire Killers is a great film. There's a lot of fucking very good films.
Yeah.
But
what is unsaid if you don't know, then
we've come around to this topic. We're going to talk like over the past year or so. We're going to talk about this topic now, and then it's like that would a creator would come out and do something. It's like, well, we can't do it now because we're jumping on the bandwagon, and that's happened 2 or 3 times.
Certainly. Since we're on this, I think there's also this like massive overcomplication as well that comes from the online world, is that people who perhaps have never liked someone or have got an axe to grind, or just go quiet on something. We've certainly seen that allegations flying around that recently, where people would go overboard against one person and then just go quiet against another.
It's shocking that we've seen that with Piscator and Ellis, and it would come with the most modern case, and it's just like everyone's fucking shut up. No one wants to say anything. It's really kind of galling because you look back and say
it gets to the point where you have to say something. You have to say something because the evidence is mounting up, so they need to put the article out to show that they're saying something.
And I think there's also there's a rainbow of fucking nuance, isn't there? There's all this thing going on, and I think there's but the most important thing is the welfare of the people. Let's call them victims, not necessarily just in any general case. That there's people out there who might be hurt and need help, and that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Not our silly little book collections, not these creators who've got millions,
but
none of that.
Just while we were discussing that topic of the art, I mean, the people who are kind of affected negatively by that, like you said, Tony, are kind of.
That's as someone involved in a community. I usually don't admit to that, but someone involved in a community, that's our duty of care.
Yeah.
It's the people who are hurt by it.
Yeah. And there's always there's a responsibility to learn and to basically, pay goodness forward. We talk about like heroes previously, just be the good people that make everything better.
Sort of stand up.
I
and
mean,
say
Garth
something
Ennis always said, you've got to be one of the good ones because there's far too many of the bad, and there's it's so
don't adhere to
true.
a tribal mentality either.
Yeah.
Which seems to be what's happened recently.
Yeah.
They can't do anything wrong because they're on my side, and it's like,
Well, you can't do that. You can't treat it like that.
Can't do that, mate.
Yeah, and also just when people get heated about things, there's a certain misinformation, and being uninformed is the most. It's the quickest way to light a fire, I think.
Yeah.
And there's not enough people who just sort of go, okay,
let's see what this is about.
I need to know more about this before I say anything, or before I pipe up.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who want to take 5 steps forward, but they never want to take 3 steps back when they realise they've done something wrong.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, it's being misinformed. Don't paint yourself out to be an ally if it's just for your own ego and to make yourself look good.
Yeah. And don't attack just because you think it makes you look good.
Yeah. Because usually in these situations there's a lot of shit going on with parties that no one else in the fandom has got any fucking clue about. We don't know anything about. Do you know what I mean? If 2 people are having an argument in the street, we don't know why that's happened. But
I also think that it's not we're not judges.
Yeah.
Twitter isn't a courtroom.
No.
The guilt and innocence of someone should be left up to the fucking law, not to a load of fucking weirdos who never leave their front room on their computer.
Like I said, man, that fucking John Ronson book when he said they had to get rid of mob law because it was fucking brutal and savage, and then you can't, once it gets fucking going, you can't stop it.
Yeah.
And Twitter has been in that direction, hasn't it? Of like a mob rule. Yeah. If the mob say that X person is guilty, you've been judged by public court. You're guilty. End of story.
And you're ruined. You're ruined.
Because people said you were guilty and not because you were actually guilty. There's no preponderance of the evidence.
And we understand being passionate about when we see like an injustice in the world, or we see something that's wrong. We totally understand that because, as Tony said, it's all about the victims and stuff. But sometimes people need to look in their hands, and if one of them's got a torch and the other one's got a pitchfork, maybe they shouldn't fucking say anything.
Chill back, man.
Because if you're holding those, just stay out. Just, you don't have anything to fucking say. Do you know what I mean?
It can get very heated very quickly. I can understand why. I can understand why.
Yeah.
I mean, if you start reading,
I can see people having a lot of opinions about this.
Yeah.
It's a very emotive subject, and it's very difficult because it's a really tough one. It's a really tough one.
And as always, it's easy enough for people like us to say things, or for whoever to say, because we're not in these situations.
There's no set rules, man. I'm not one of these people who can sit here and say this is exactly what you should be doing. This is exactly what you shouldn't be doing. Because you can't, because it lies, a lot of it lies in our hearts as well.
It will always. This is something that is always going to be a problem. It's not going away, and until the end of time, it's not going away, because there are people that will be successful, and they will be marketed as being heroes, when in actual fact they were villains all along. That was the way of tying it back to the original segment. That was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's what it'd be.
And now, has anyone got any shout-outs?
Although we're churning through it at the moment. I think one, keep the conversation going, but please, based on this, it's a discussion and a debate. Like, no, if you're going to...
I don't need to say that to the Slack. I know they were handling it in an adult and mature fashion.
Just in general.
Generally.
I think, let's face it, all of us have had that this discussion with people that we enjoy any form of media or comics, or we've had these discussions, and if you listen to this show, you've clearly got good taste and you know how to handle yourself. So very good taste indeed. But speaking of taste and flavour, before we move on to the shout outs, just briefly,
Oh yeah.
Dan, right?
Oh, we can do it.
Yeah, let's address.
Tony brought it to my attention.
Yeah, Tony brought this. Go on.
So I was going through previews yesterday. I had a bit of a Home Alone day, and I was going through previews to see what I'm going to order. And the Absolute Green Lantern is not a member of a Lantern Corps, doesn't have a ring, and is none of the main characters we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And I thought
this is under the Absolute line.
Absolute, yeah. And I mentioned it to you too, and I can't remember who said it. He said, "Look, Superman's Kal-El still, Wonder Woman's Wonder Woman, Batman's Batman still. Why have they decided to go off in this other way?" And I pointed out that it came out almost around the same time as the new TV series. The stills came out from the new TV series of Hal and John walking down the street, both wearing fucking Green Lantern rings, being part of a corps, this sort of thing. And I just thought it's a terrible combination of bad timing. Yeah.
Do you know what I just realised about this? I was looking at this this advert once again, which I think the marketing of it, we had a discussion on WhatsApp about it, listeners, but the marketing of it is almost created to needle people who were original things, because the tagline, no core, no ring, absolute guardian. So they're bringing up things that are just going to, if you're a long time, and I know there's a lot of people who love Green Lantern and you like the way things are with the Green Lantern.
This is stupid. It's
right. But have you looked at that image again?
Not specifically.
Not since no.
You said anything, but no.
I don't know whether it's the case, but they are wearing a ring.
Oh, they wanted to say no ring then. All right.
But it is on their wedding band finger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if anything, it just makes the tagline look stupid because she's wearing a ring.
Yeah. Right.
But that is just a weird, yeah.
Well, like I said, the Absolute line is kind of like breaking it down for kind of new readers to jump in and old readers to jump back in, because they know the format, and you've got these long established characters and you know their strengths and weaknesses and you can play with them.
Yeah.
From Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, they've all kind of the reason these titles are working is because they focus on this. But then if I said to you, like, the Green Lantern, we're going to take away the ring, you're going to take away the corpse, and it's not going to have like Hal or John Stewart as the Green Lantern,
or Guy,
or Guy, and it just like, well, what is it then? What's the hook? Like, I was thinking about. I said to you,
but the timing is so ridiculous, and it's coming out at the same time as Guy Gardner's appearing in Superman the movie, and you got two other Green Lanterns appearing in the TV series, and it's coming out at exactly the same time. Why are you fucking? What kind of idiotic? Are you looking to just flush fucking money down the toilet?
I've been to the most factual place on the internet, the Wikipedia, and this is what they say the premise. Just because, as always, I'm completely uninformed about this, so I'm just picking it up. The series focuses on Joe Mullane, Hal Jordan, John Stewart, and Guy Gardner after a large Green Lantern falls from the sky and crushes a town, causing widespread paranoia.
Is that the comic or the TV series?
That's the Absolute Green Lantern comic book.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. So there's original characters there. But okay. Oh, right, okay. This is what this is gonna okay. This is just Wikipedia, by the way.
You haven't read this before, by the way. This has been
okay. Ewing described the series, because Al Ewing writing it. Past guest on the show. Ewing described the series as a horror title, similar to his previous work on the Immortal Hulk. What you're getting here, folks, is a live reaction from my two co-hosts. Similar to his previous work on the Immortal Hulk, with a major theme being the fear of the unknown, also tying into religious, cosmic horror, and the nature of God. Okay, just let that sink in. Right.
Okay.
That seems so massively broad that it could be anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just anything.
Sojourner Mullane was chosen as the primary protagonist due to what Ewing felt. Get ready, because I'm getting ready for their response to this. What Ewing felt was his overabundance of writing middle-aged male characters, as well as reading and liking N.K. Jemison's Far Sector, where Joe debuted.
Right.
Go
Okay.
Make that a Green Lantern title, but not an absolute Green Lantern title. I don't know what I've got.
I mean,
nothing
I
to
think
say
as
to
I
that.
understand it, Far Sector did okay.
Yeah.
So
The
maybe...
proof is in the pudding, of course,
Yeah.
because this
Of course,
book isn't,
always.
isn't
Yeah.
until July.
No.
You know, and we had
I'd
similar.
like to point out, as if you want to do a dip sample, as a Green Lantern fan, I didn't pre-order this.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, like, I'm not a hardcore Green Lantern fan, but there was a time back in the day, the Jeff Johns day, where the Green Lantern was killing it in the DC universe. The Blackest Night was
Massive
one of the
event.
biggest things.
I've still got the Ring collection they gave out in comic shops.
Yeah.
I said to you, if you were going to write an absolute title, did you have any thoughts about this? An absolute Green Lantern? How would you go about doing it?
Oh,
I mean,
what was your sort of
their
picture?
ones, right? Okay, this is just me riffing off the top of my head, right? Okay, and this could upset a lot of Green Lantern fans and not be what you want. Okay, but this is kind of what I'm
That's
doing.
fine.
I'm
Mate,
sprinkling.
You're
going
going up against what we just had there.
Sprinkling in
So
a little bit of Judge Dredd into my Green Lantern. I'm mixing that into the stew. Okay, so we have this setup, but it's almost it's more. It's less of a Guardians. It's more like a space sort of militaristic sort of Legion. Do you know what I mean? If you imagine like something from Dune. Do you know what I mean? They're built to just maybe a Green Lantern is chosen for this planet, and then eventually the planet is consumed into the whatever this alien race is. Do you know what I mean? You have all of that, and the Green Lantern in this is the one that's like, I have the, is the standing up against it. Do you know what I mean? You have this, the Hal Jordan or something is like, okay, I've got this power. Actually, I don't want to do this. That's something in the absolute world. You almost sort of build up. You can take bits of the structure of the original Green Lantern and do something different with it. So it's not space cops, which is awesome in the normal Green Lantern thing. But if it's absolute, I think it pays you to actually try and do something with the original format, which I don't. This is just doing something completely different that I can see. So I would be twisting it, and you can have and within those, the Green Lanterns being, this sort of military sort of core. There are rebels in there, blah 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 blah. You can do, that's just off the top of my head. Creating an epic, a space epic, which I think is what's. We've got the Heaven and Hell Wonder Woman. We've got the stuff going on with Superman. We've got the Batman stuff. But this is the one okay, let's have some galactic,
it's like the cosmic
stuff.
Yeah, let's have it. If it's going to be cosmic, let's make it massive.
Yeah.
Feeding off the Dune buzz and you can build in some of that. That we like. Do something a bit interesting with it if you're going to twist it.
Yeah, I think the thing about Green Lantern for me is very generational, isn't he? So for me, it was Hal. But I understand people who it's Jon Stewart because they grew up with the cartoon Justice League.
I
cartoon.
think
So Jon Stewart was
is it Kyle Radner?
Kyle Rayner's the sort of more Spider-Man-esque because he's sort of the younger kid.
He doesn't.
But then again, you got Guy Gardner as well.
He doesn't get enough. For me, he had my favourite Green Guardian. With the gauntlets. I love that look in the 90s.
Cool little mask.
But because he's in the 90s, I don't think he gets a shake of it. I don't.
Yeah,
think
he comes back. There's a whole host of new ones.
Yeah.
Won't get into, but how Hard Traveling Heroes was almost like an early version of it for me with Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams and that sort of Speedy to Druggy. You police everyone who's blue, green, and orange, but what do you do for the black man kind of stuff? Very sort of socially conscious stuff, and I really liked that, and there was a real grounding of it, and it combined it with what then became the Mike Grell Green Arrow stuff, and I think Hal to me is a hero to look up to, while Guy Gardner is a fun one to write. I think, and Carl Rayner's it's almost like a more of a Spider-Man-esque learning on the job kind of dude.
Yeah,
he was
so
also
there's
a
a
bit
different
more violent.
dynamic.
I think Carl Radner was a bit more violent.
Yeah, we had the fridging and that sort of thing, didn't we? And that, yeah.
Which isn't an Urban Dictionary thing. It's
But I think you're right. I think there is a space to do that sort of cosmic thing. But you're right. I think the last big. Now you had the Jeff Johns Hal coming back, didn't we? We had Hal destroying a city, didn't we, during the Superman stuff. Joe Staton stuff. I really loved him on it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good Green Lantern periods that you can pick up on, I think.
Yeah.
And know are going to be popular. I think the sort of the rainbow war of different rings, the orange lanterns, and all this sort of thing, it lost me a little bit.
Yeah, they did it. It was too much.
Laugh-lees and all these sort of people.
If he was going to do an absolute title, you wouldn't have that in the title with kind of like you want to knuckle down the core essence of what the Green Lantern title.
I think you've almost got to start with one person, and then they discover the core, and then it becomes it's almost like goes into space. Almost what they tried to do in the very flawed movie. You see through the eyes of the stranger who arrives on Oa and stuff like that. But I think definitely if there's any outside of Adam Strange or them doing an absolute New Gods, which I don't think they'll do now, but it really is the Green Lantern would be the one that picks up the cosmic thing. It's a shame Jim Starlin's not about to draw it.
What if I've got another idea for you. What if it's like Green Lantern, like they're taken off a planet and they're taught, but rather than like being a defender of the Earth, they're put into like a Green Lantern platoon, like a Black Ops platoon that goes to different planets to do things.
Do stuff.
Yeah. Rather than just being given, was it 2184, isn't it? Is his sector.
His sector.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I just thought it was massively counterintuitive to actually selling any comics in the poster.
I thought they were supposed to be what do you call it as well, like continuity free, the characters. So I don't know why you brought in a pre-existing character from the current line into something that's an absolute title. Mate, we're going off one image and we've got very little.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't enjoyed much of our recent stuff, I'll be honest with you.
Bringing up the Hulk is like,
why?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I did enjoy Immortal Hulk. I thought it was okay. I didn't think quite as good as everyone else said, but I don't know whether you can just. That might just be the PR department, though.
Yeah, it's totally the PR department. It's sort of like, you like this guy when he did this. Well, now he's doing this. We ain't done that for fucking years.
It's a Swamp Thing of the space age. There we go. It's like that almost, isn't it?
But it's the last one to appear in the sixth title in the imprint, the last title of the second batch of Absolute titles, following Absolute Flash.
But I've seen the adverts for that.
Absolute Martian Manhunter, which looks mental.
Yeah,
it's very it's quite off the wall, that one.
Absolute Flash. No Speed Force, no super speed. No, you know what I mean. Oh, okay. How's this going to work?
He just flashes old ladies.
Yeah,
it's just the Martian Manhunter.
Takes an epic picture about God and the universe and a place in it. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolute Martian Manhunter, which is scheduled for March 2025.
Yeah.
So there we go. The premise of that one, the series focuses on FBI agent John Jones as his body is taken over by an alien consciousness referred to as the Martian, causing him to slowly go insane and being dragged into an intergalactic war. This bears many differences from the main continuity, with the human John and the Martian being two separate beings.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but that feels like
it's a massive backstory.
Yeah, but that feels like they're taking something and they're just going
the concept and playing with it a bit.
Yeah. I just need to hear the Earth 2 podcast go at these now. So that's what I need.
The cover from Javier Rodriguez on Absolute Martian
Man. It does look really interesting, doesn't it?
Looks really good. Yeah.
Very sort of stylistic, almost art. There's a little bit of the Art Deco going on there sometimes.
Yeah. So that should be good.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. We were just a bit sort of, come on, guys. We want you to do well. We want you to sell comics, but
I don't think their marketing department has done very well with that one.
No, I think you're right.
I think
it's a very poster cover, isn't it? Really.
And I think sometimes that comes with it being the second batch. Do you know what I mean? They probably didn't expect the first three to be so big, so they're still concentrating on pushing those. So therefore, the second three don't get the love, they possibly deserve. It's difficult marketing comics. Jesus Christ, we talk about it all the time. Speaking of things we talk about all the time, it's on with the rest of the show and talking about comics. Do we have any shout-outs this week, gents?
I have quite a few. So, Pat Mills and Gary Welsh's Ragtime Soldier is the spiritual successor to Charlie's War and is now on Kickstarter. Go and back this. I think there's about 2 weeks left on it. Go and get it. It's really good. Looks really impressive. If you're on Pat's Substack, he wrote a lovely essay today about some of the sort of themes in it. Really interesting. You also really need to get yourself Omega Black Threat Level Ultra from Zach Cahill.
Yes,
just £7 for a collection. It's really good. It's like a collection of the 3 issues. It's a story of spies conspiracy theories, made flesh, and lesbians. So
The ending
massive.
absolutely goes there. Like turns it up to
does,
fucking
yeah.
11.
It
That's
does, yeah.
exactly the way to do it, Zach. It was great. I loved it.
Foil helmet world.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can go to Zach Cahill, Cahill, zachcahill.bigcartel.com. Instagram, Zach W. Cahill. I think Gosh may have 1 or 2 left, so go and have a look at that. Oh, buddy, Dave Cranner's got a sale on. Go and buy some Glass City comics. I do enjoy. I back his Kickstarters. They're really good. glasscitycomics.bigcartel.com. Dave Cranner and Pete Watson also let us know about the Will Eisner Week at Paisley Library in Renfrewshire, which includes a talk by comics historian Joe Lang. Look up Renfrewshire Libraries, I probably said that wrong, on Eventbrite for tickets. You can find out about that. So that's really interesting. I wish I was up that way for that. I like a bit of history. And massively just self-serving. Put a note in your diaries for Friday.
Yes.
Friday the 7th of March. The Tribute Spring catalogue drops onto Kickstarter. In it we have Tony Osmond 2. The universes of Cockney Kung Fu and Tony Osmond well and truly have collided and produced a child. Dirty Basement is an anthology full of some really good stuff, some really filthy stuff, including the return of a certain barbarian, which will be a crowd pleaser, I think. We've also got a Marvelised involved in that one, so watch out for that one.
Nice.
Aboner Darkly. Imagine if Marcus Aurelius was born in the late 1960s, was writing for Gen Xers about being constantly annoyed, i.e. me. And
That's great.
Electric Tray issue 3, which is a collection of strips from Mr. Falp and return of the comics dealers, who are just fucking brilliant. So it's like 3 comics dealers from, imagine these 3 guys at the Comic Mart every month and the shenanigans they get up to, and it puts the Fabulous Freak Brothers to shame. It's that sort of kind of vibe. So watch out for that. You can sign up for the landing page now. Just look for Tribute Press on Kickstarter, and you can sign up, and be one of the first people to back it on Friday when it goes live. We'll also be doing a podcast. We'll probably stick it on the Substack, talking about what's going on with it. They're my ones, guys. There you go.
Kind of backing the shit out of that.
Thank you, mate. Cheers, mate.
Kickstarter launching soon. I'll just press the button. It's disappeared. Excellent. Silence, a psychological horror graphic novel. Former comic artist Stanley Kane, recovering in silence, MI, finds an amulet that brings his angry creations to life. From Joseph Oliveira. That's notifying me on launch. That's yet to release, but that looks absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
going to be back in that one. We've got Lawless, 24th to the 25th of May, 2025, Doubletree by Hilton Hotel, Bristol, B516NJ. Don't ask me about dealer tables because they've gone. High Viz Comic Con, Saturday, 21st of June, 2025, Kings Heath, Birmingham, UK. Go check out High Viz Festival. Just do a Google for it and that'll pop up. Massive shout out to the ACP Recommends site.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fucking great for just checking back on stuff that I've done, stuff that we've done. I always look back on it. I looked back the other week and I saw that comic, The Queen and the Pauper by Mrs. G, and she's an she's a real woman. Mrs. G is real, and
all right,
she might run an OnlyFans. She's kind of like, she's got that kind of vibe going on, which is fair enough. I'm not judging. I kind of am, but not really. And that ACP recommend site is run by our friend Craig Shields, and congratulations,
Thanks,
Craig.
Craig.
You got married a few weeks ago, and great, awesome.
Hey.
I think that might be the end of my shout-outs, and it is. Yeah, well done.
I think it might be the end, and it is.
What you can't see, listener, is Dan like desperately clicking through links and staring at his screen.
I've got more windows up, like getting me.
Yeah. All those pop-ups. Speaking of things that make it pop up, it's time to recommend some comics to you lovely people. Tony, do you want to take us?
I'll start with the first one. The Hall of the Mad Maggot King from Ugly Man Comics. This is
a great title.
Written by Buck McCumber. That may or may not be his real name.
Yes.
I reached out to Buck this week, and I said to him, I'm getting a bit of a Moorcock feel from this, in the nicest possible way, Michael, in other words. And he said, yes, you're right there. He says Michael Moorcock, Robert E. Howard, Enid Blyton, Maya Angelou, and Clark Ashton Smith, all their influences on this.
Wow.
Believe a number of those if you wish, although I think some of them may not be true. He goes on to tell me about a number of state secrets, which I won't be revealing, but easily the email of the week for that one. Hilarious. All I sent him this message was, "Who wrote this? Was it you?" And I'm not going to say who it is. I think Buck McCumber may be a pen name, but it's got a black and white, so it's zine-sized, black and white cover. It's like they're called tiki. You know, like you get tiki bars, you get those sort of cut into wood, kind of things. Is that like a tiki thing? Is it?
Yes, that's now you mentioned, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, reminded me a bit of how weavers work actually. No, it's just this cut out from wood looking black and white drawing with no title on it. And when just staring at that, as I was writing this early in the morning, having some breakfast, it reminded me that there are no rules in the small press, are there? We can do what we like.
No.
We don't have to put a fucking title on the front of a book. But this cover does make an impact. And to me, if I saw that on a shelf, it would be intriguing and I would pick it up and look at it. And I very much enjoyed the interiors. So what is the story about? The 3 rides were brutal, intemperate men. Their giant chargers dripped black gore from war-torn hooves. The men were mean, degraded, and desperate. And
That's a
it's
Taylor
a very,
Swift lyric, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah, yeah. Just because some bloke left her. And it's got some of the best fucking writing. I know Buck McCumber, when I spoke to him, was saying he went a bit mad with alliteration, and the writing just made me constantly chuckle in this. It was just spot on. So as I say, black and white. 3 warriors. They ride into a remote farmhouse. And they go. The owner of the cabin, he tells them that his daughter has been taken to the realm of the maggots and the hall of the mad maggot king. And the soldiers find out that the girl has jewels on her, and they decide to help. And there's one of them's called Zarmuk, and he has special tracking powers, which he uses by holding his boner to find people. And he says the future lies this way because his boner's pointing that way. So Zarmuk, Captain Brack, and Skullhead carry their bloody and violent quest to find this girl, chopping up people like non-stop. It's non-stop gore, very underground, and they hacked, bludgeoned, and profaned until dismembered at their feet lay a legion of unholy beasts. It's written like that in that sort of po-faced, just like ripped from the pages of a Del Rey New English Library fantasy book, that sort of thing. Captain Brack fights the Worm King. It doesn't go well. The Worm King hits him so hard at one point. They clash blades to such a point where it just breaks all of the bones in Brack's arms. Zarmuk runs off with the naked girl, and he he rapes her, but she's got a power where she bites off the end of his penis with her vagina, and blood sort of spurts everywhere. This is all ages book.
All ages book, yeah.
It's absolutely crazy and absolutely glorious for that reason. Really dirty black and white art, but it never points the camera, as it were, away from the action or the dirt or the grime or the gore or anything like that. Very readable, though. It's not like, I say this all the time with some underground books where, you pick up a copy of Zap and there's only like 5 of the 6 stories is actually readable. The other one's like, what the fuck is this? I don't understand what's going on. But you totally get what's going on in this one. The narration is just absolutely exceptional. I just absolutely was laughing throughout reading this one. It is properly just. I know they can't really see, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you that page there, guys. If you can see that, that's the castration.
Yeah.
The blood's just spurting out. That'll teach him.
Don't use the word
sort of
spurting.
Thank you.
It's an awful word.
It's you can go to uglymancomics.org. On Instagram, you can go Ugly Man Comics, and it's a great site for just reading stuff as well. Go and have a look at it. There's loads of stuff on there. Go to Buck McCumber's page. Buck McCumber.
That's such a great name.
Yeah.
That's fucking great.
Yeah. And I'll say it again. We need to get these dudes on.
Yeah.
I love this.
Shout.
This is like the second thing I think I've reviewed of theirs. But they sent me a little pile of comics when I sent them some money a few weeks ago, and they come straight away. But yeah, absolutely brilliant. You wouldn't know it's called it, but if you go a couple of pages in, it's called The Hall of the Mad Maggot King. But if you see anything that looks like a sort of A5 zine with a tiki mask on it with big teeth, then that'll hopefully be what you should be looking for. So brilliant stuff. Yeah, more of that, please.
Nice.
That's my first one.
I'm going to jump in now with another. They're not paying me for this, but
They should be.
It's another bloody Mad Caves comics book. I've been reading some great indie stuff, but there's one that I'm just finishing before I want to discuss it, because that's what we do. We finish the books before we talk about them on the show.
Yeah.
But one that I rinsed 2 issues of. There's 2 issues of so far of this one, and this is Kill Train by Mad Cave. This is by the creators are the writer is Olivia Cotaro Briggs. I'm sorry if I murdered the names. Artist Martina Niosi. Colorist is Simone D'Angelo, and the letterer is Becca Carey. This is a sci-fi. Oh, I want to say sci-fi horror thriller. Synopsis is: to control the population explosion that nearly crippled the city, New York has instituted Kill Train, a randomized extermination program where designated subway trains are picked at random and all of the passengers are slaughtered by the end of the line. In this not-so-distant future, we meet Vanessa, a struggling single mum in the midst of a nervous breakdown, who discovers that she herself is on a kill train. Stop pissing about!
Puppetry of the penis.
We're so well behaved when you're talking, Tony, and you just can't help yourself, can you? Puppetry of the penis. He's playing with his fisto on camera, folks. But yes, Vanessa discovers that she herself is on a kill train now. For once in her life and everything to prove, Vanessa decides she's not going down without a fight. This is a book that, when I was looking at the classic thumbnail buy-in, which we've had, issue 2 of this, it's got a fucking great cover where it's like the window of a train carriage, and it's just absolutely splattered with blood, and the main character is wiping it. You know, like how people clean mirrors, and you can see the person, like,
you hear the noise.
Yeah. And it was just such an image. I was like, this looks fucking great. This book is pretty great. It's a little bit The Purge meets Midnight Meat Train with a little. What I didn't expect about it, because I thought it was going to be a modern day, contemporary sort of title. So to have it be slightly in the future, where sort of took me back a little bit. It sets up the sort of society and how they're hoping that the kill train system will come to an end, and it's just fucking random. It's one of those wonderful sci-fi conceits that's just, it's there to ignite absolute fucking carnage at some point. You have the build up before it properly fucking kicks off. So you see the main character who is actually a likable character as well. Do you know what I mean? They're just sort of like just trying to get through their day. Everyone else is sort of, they're having problems with their job. And even though they're having problems with their job, they go to drop the kids off and then bump into someone rich that's like, oh, how are you doing with the work that you're doing? And then you're like, oh, fucking hell, I've just got to... They're really put upon, and they don't have enough money. These chits, I think it's called chits. It's not using like dollars or pounds or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which was a nice sort of, which immediately set it in a futuristic sci-fi sort of place. She didn't have enough money for a cab, and because she didn't have like a travel card, there's a wonderful interaction with a taxi driver who basically just runs off and goes, if you fucking don't have the money, then fuck you, and drives off. And she's like, oh, I'm going to have to catch the train then. It's that wonderful, the tensions, the kettle's boiling throughout, and where it's going to go, but the fact that she's like, I'm just going to have to get on a packed subway train full of all of these people. Immediately you sort of see these characters that you're thinking, with the art, which is lovely and clean, and like, you can tell the difference between all these characters. There's no sort of house style.
I used to think that about when you used to watch movies about New York in the 70s. There's all who goes from the underground, because it always seems to be full of Charles Bronson killing people, or the warriors fighting with each other, or something like that.
Yeah. And it's already set up the scenario, because there's like, she's watching the news at some point and they're talking about it, how hopefully the kill train initiative will be ending soon, because the population will have declined to a certain amount because they've just massacred these people. And it's one of those, if you're on the train and you get killed, there's nothing you can do, but there's nothing you can do about it. And it used to be they were highly trained like assassins that were brought in to do it and do it cleanly. But then one of the assassins is a whistleblower who sort of said it was messed up what they were doing and none of us wanted to do it. So the assassins aren't there anymore, and now it's rumoured that they're just giving weapons and money to like vagabonds and the homeless to just go in and fucking which means it's not very clean and it's brutal. So when it kicks off at the end of issue 1, heads roll, innards spill, blood goes everywhere. Like, it's an all ages book. But it's just handled really well. This is a real good popcorn munching sci-fi. As with all good sci-fi, there's an element of truth, the real world about it, without it being so. It doesn't drown the fun nature of it. Because in issue 2, you meet some more characters. There's a lightness in touch about it, because I thought this would go really dark, but it seems to be more. I mean, some people just deal with the fact that there's mass murder in front of them a little bit too easy for me. In some ways.
Is this on Global Comics? This
is on Global Comics.
Right,
this one.
It reminds me of the story. I once heard a story about when South Africa went like super violent. The police wouldn't investigate murders that happened in the street because they just never knew. They knew they'd never solve them.
Yeah.
So detectives would turn up at the scene of a murder and it would be in the street, but because they were so poorly paid and so poorly staffed, like the uniformed police officer who found the murder in the house would just drag the body into the street so they wouldn't have to investigate. It's like massively lawless.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. And there's that element of like, because it's within this sort of setting of like, once you get on this train and it goes, they know it's a problem when they pass their stop and they're like, oh God, there's that real, hold on, I'm supposed to get off there. And like it's almost like the entire carriage is like, oh fuck, we're on the bad train. But there's also the main character who becomes, a situation happens with a killer on the train, and she she tries to defend herself and accidentally ends up dealing with this killer, like pushing them off the train. And because it's not like she stepped up and went like, you can't fuck with me. It was one of those self-defense sort of things, and something just sort of happened. Because that happened, an entire carriage of people sort of looked at her and goes, well, you know what you're doing, what do we do next? So it's even bringing in that sort of like mentality of like, oh, one person knew what they were doing, so we must follow everything that they're doing. So there's interesting sort of societal sort of things going on within the storytelling that, for me, I'm looking forward to seeing where this. I mean, I imagine this is going to be 4 or 5 issues. It's the sort of thing where they can't drag it on too long. And they're obviously going to have to deal with the fact that, like, if they get out, they've got to get past the people who are probably, because there's the council, the government, or whatever will try and kill anyone trying to come off this train because it would ruin the whole thing. So it's going to lead to that. But I really enjoyed these first 2 issues. I just was like, I need to know where this is going. So Kill Train is one to look at. One of the many books from Mad Cave. It's fucking ridiculous.
Oh, okay, that's good. So that's day date, I guess.
Day and date it must be. So there's 2 issues of it. You can go to madcavestudios.com. They've got great pages for their books as well. Like it shows you all the creators. It shows you.
That's awesome.
Like bits of the different. You can see all the different sort of covers. So it's great. Yeah, get Kill Train if you see it.
Yeah, that sounds good. That.
And Dan, what have you got?
I got recommended this on the Slack by Simon. Those Not Afraid, issue 1, a new crime series from three-time Eisner nominee Carl Starks, who wrote the excellent Peacemaker Tries Hard, Where Monsters Lie, for fans of true crime, murder, and fiction. So written by Carl Starks, art by Patrick Piazza Lunga. Excuse me for the awful murder of that name. Marco Bracco on the colorist, letterer Jim Campbell, and the cover artist, I think, on all the books is Glenn Fabry.
All right.
It starts off with a quote by Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. We've all got the power in our hands to kill, but most people are afraid to use it. The ones aren't afraid to control life itself. and that plays very much into the theme of the book. It starts off with a voiceover narrating how a young girl, Christian Robertson, wakes up, and she's kind of like in a murder basement, covered with tor torture tools all over the place, and where the killer has forgotten they've left the screwdriver out, and where she's tied up with manacles, she's able to use the screwdriver to undo the cuff she's got on, get the door off using all the other tools, and get out. And it the commentator, the person talking over it, says, like Tim Buddy said, the first time you were careful, by the 13th time you can't remember where you left the lug wrench. And it pulls out that this girl escapes, and it's a true crime podcast where one of the main characters narrating the story of how this girl has escaped from this murder basement, and this serial killer had killed like so many victims. And she says, at the moment we've got two serial killers working in the state, and she goes on to explain both of them. One of them goes after, kills and beheads brunette women, targets brunette women, chops their head off, takes the head as a trophy. The second one called them the home intruder, and he just seems to pick homes at random and goes in, just kills everyone in there, just like slaughters them. And you think, well, where's this going?
But is he relatable? That's the...
Yeah, is he relatable? So it cuts out to like a kind of a secondhand car salesman who's a right sleazebag, and he's the brunette killer, and he's got like trophies in his basement. He's a right fucking piece of shit. And he's in the process of kind of like tracking down his latest would-be victim. And he's sort of who's the serial killer kind of like used to help them with their shopping, and he pretended to be have an injury so the woman would help him, and then he'd bundle him into the car and then take him off and do whatever. He's in the process of doing that, and he looks off into the side and he sees the other serial killer going into a house and follows him in. This is where the story sets up. He sort of talks to the other serial killer and says, like, me and you are on a record of getting the most kills ever in the state. Why don't we won't interfere with each other, but we'll make a game out of it. Like, who can do this like fastest, who can do it. You're not allowed to interfere, you can't call the cops on one another. And the other guy, who's a bit more of an oddball to the more charismatic serial killer, says, all right then, yeah, we'll do that. Both of them are fucking horrible. It's really like it's ironic that we've gone from an episode talking about writing the good guys, and then we've got like Carl Stark's here writing the bad guys, and
but he's writing bad guys.
They're bad guys. Oh, they're horrible. Yeah. Not to give it all away. The guy who goes after brunettes meets his wife in a restaurant, and she's dyed her hair blonde because she doesn't want to get. And she's really scared about it, and it's like, it's your fucking husband doing it. It's a right. It's horrible. It's horrible. And then they're like, well, why did we go to this restaurant? It's really out of town. Why have we come here? And then the server comes over, and it's the other killer, and he's like, and it sort of ends there. That one of them, they know who they are in real life, and it sets up right what he's going to do. The main character is the podcast of the girl, and her dad's like a police officer who kind of bungled the previous case of the one that was abducting girls. So there's a kind of a redemption arc coming for maybe the father police officer who's retired, and his daughter who's running this true crime podcast. So it's a 4-issue miniseries. I've only read the first one, and I'm all in for reading the rest. Simon, thanks for recommending to this, because I missed it.
What company published that?
That's Dark Horse.
That was by Dark Horse.
Dark Horse, okay.
Carl Stice is one of my favourites. I really like his stuff. He can make bad guys compelling, but at the same time fucking horrible. And yeah, look forward to more.
Cool. Nice.
That's me.
Tony.
Last one. So the Angriest Warrior, Dead End. This is from Erwin Papper. We haven't talked about it for a couple of years, actually. Warwick Walker. I reached out to Warwick, who kindly sent it in to see what who did what in it, basically. And it turns out that Warwick and Erwin have been buddies for years and decided to collaborate for a bit of fun. and Warwick did the script and panel layouts, and I think he did some thumbnails as well for it, and then handed it off to Owen, who drew it. It's actually 2 stories in one comic. This, the cover, really good cover. It's it's a comedy story about a really angry Conan kind of character.
Nice.
But the cover is, in the words of Wayne's World, extreme close up of this face looking angry. Really lovely design. The first story of the 2 starts off almost in a little bit of a wordless world. We do get a little bit of speech here and there, and certainly further later on in it. And the Angriest warrior is in a house, in sort of like a living room. It jumps about in venue and sort of genre, a little bit in genre for this, but it works. And he's holding a head, and the room's covered in blood. And he says, "Oh, this is another dead end." And he decides to eat some cereal in this house, and he gets the cereal out, pours it in a bowl, and then he gets the milk carton out. And of course, the milk carton in America, they have the pictures of missing children, don't they, on the side of the milk?
Yeah.
And this gives him, he thinks, "Oh, look, there's a missing child on the side of this." This gives him an idea. So he decides to, he makes a load of flyers up that he pastes all about town. Turns out he's lost his sword. That's what's made him angry. He's got this sort of special sword, a bit like Conan the Destroyer kind of sword. And unfortunately, what it also does is it gets loads of people who want to kill him. They realise where he is. So they turn up in a bar and kick off with him. Lovely, clean, black and white artwork. Owen Pappas great, actually. The second story is more classic sword and sorcery tropes, where he's on a sort of mission to find something. And this is from 2017 to 2018, when Warwick came up with the idea back then. Sort of more on a quest, I suppose. You know,
Okay.
Magicians and castles and stuff like that. It's been a week for barbarians for me this week, to be fair, and quests.
Oh man, I
actually.
love a fucking barbarian comic.
Yeah, I do.
They're
too.
great.
Yeah. Just a couple of short, funny, super violent, fun, indie, small press comics that treat I mean, it's a trope-ridden world, isn't it? Barbarian comics, and you know, fantasy comics to a certain stuff. But if you treat it in the right way, it continues to be original and amusing and interesting. You can find Erwin Papa at Erwin ERWIN Erwin.Papa PAPA. You can find the Angriest Warrior at the Angriest Warrior on Instagram. You can buy a copy at erwinpapa.storenv.com, and you can find Warwick at Warwick WARRICK Warwick Walker, or he's got a Patreon as well, patreon.com Warwick Walker. There you go.
It looks great.
Nice one. Yeah.
Now I think you've got he sent in 2 comics. You're looking at the other one, aren't you?
Yeah.
So we may hear about that in a few weeks' time. But I think I was just taken for this just purely for the cover.
Yeah.
On this one, there was 2 coming from Warwick, and I chose the one with the cover.
There's
and you chose
a
another
certain
one.
Richard Corbin-esque feel to some of the art.
Yeah, that sort of raw thing,
which is never a bad thing when you're reminded of that.
No, I think they're doing library editions of his stuff, aren't they? I should really start picking him up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A certain friend of ours who's been on the show in the last couple of months, he's got a couple of original pages on his walls. I'm like,
my word.
Very
Something
nice.
like that.
My word. Speaking of originals, it's been full of original content this week on the show. And
Man, we've picked on some fucking topics.
Yeah,
we have.
Yeah. We hope you have enjoyed.
Controversial.
We hope you have enjoyed the show.
You know.
No, it's all thoughtful discourse. Obviously, you don't have to agree with us, and of course, you shouldn't always agree with us because you've got your own minds. Damn it! And
Doesn't mean we can't get on.
No, exactly. And you've been listening to the show, so we love you anyway. So, and thank you very much for listening to this episode. We hope you laughed, thought, cried. Oh, I was about to say cry, but we don't want anyone to cry at this show, do we?
Joy.
Maybe, yeah. And maybe crying at like they've added so much to their wish list, or they spent so much money on the comics we recommend.
Maybe crying because they got so hard for 2 hours.
Oh my God, Red Raw.
Well, they've just come to the end of the show.
Yeah.
So thank fuck. That's over another fucking week.
Yep, totally. It's a war of attrition, this episode, these shows.
Just leave everyone shaking. What if Tony Daniel Vince says, "What do you think of this week's show?" Oh no, I don't know what to say. I haven't listened to it yet.
Yeah.
You're not our friend. You're not our friend.
If there's anything you want us to talk about on upcoming shows, topics, or if you've got any comic books or you're working on comic books that you'd like us to check out, please do get in touch. There's several different ways you can do it. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media at Awesome Comics Pod on Insta. We're at the Awesome Pod on X. We have a Substack, which how do they get involved with that, guys?
Just look up Awesome Comics Pod on Substack. You'll find it.
Substack, yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to find. Yeah.
There is, of course, links to these episodes as well as other articles. We're going to work on even more as the months and years roll on. So, but definitely join us there. Thank you for listening to us.
We have had quite the listenership bump on Substack. Yeah. I'll tell you about it in a minute. But I'm like, oh, bloody hell.
Yeah.
I've split the cover club up into 2 now, so that's on a Wednesday and a Friday.
Nice.
Because it was just getting too long to put in one post.
Yeah.
So,
So thank you for listening to us, whether it was on Substack or on awesomecomics.podbean.com. If it was on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, leave us a nice review or a like or something like that. It helps to get the word out about the show.
Yeah, it does.
Because we do fuck all marketing, to be fair. It's only when new people are sharing.
We need to do a bit more.
We got to do a bit more to get these wonderful indie comics in the ears of more people and these creators. And if you listen to us on Spotify, thank you very much. You can always say something nice or leave a good comment there. We're also on Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What are the networks we on, Tony?
We're on the Pod Network. I'm going to call, let's describe them as certain unnamed Kickstarters as G-Spots, because I can't find that either.
Oh, dear. It's in between the F and the H key, Tony.
Oh, okay.
I got to say, when Rob Liefeld was coming out with all that stuff, I do appreciate that guy. I was like,
you do surprise me.
What about the Brigade Kickstarter?
Yes. Yeah.
Never let that go.
Hashtag never forget Brigade.
Yeah.
And what you must never forget is where to find us online, etc. Tony?
Neveronanything.com.
Nice. Damn.
You can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com or on Global Comics.
Nice. And you can follow me on social media at Jester Diablo. Thank you again for listening to the show. We hope you have a brilliant week filled with brilliant comics, whether you're making them, reading them, visiting your local comic book store. Please keep supporting your local comic book store and ordering stuff there, because they deserve the support as well as needing it. So, big shout out to all the comic book stores out there. And I guess for the week ahead, they should. Let's see. I said reading comics. I said making comics. From all of us here at Awesome HQ, there's something I'm missing. What should they do, guys?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.